sense, it was a pretty rough time for Boston, but they were still arguably the best team in the East for multiple years. I think Rondo was also a multiple-time All-Star, was he not? He was a 4-time All-Star while in the Boston Celtics run, and also with the 2008 NBA Finals, helping them bring a title to Boston, also going to a championship game next after that. Man, do I think Rondo's number 9 number deserves to be retired? I mean, do I think his number deserves to be retired? Maybe not, but do I think it's going to happen? I think yes. I think, he was a part of a very good time for Celtic history, and all of his other teammates' numbers are definitely going to be retired. Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, all those guys for sure. And I'm pretty sure Rondo will join them at some point in time. Just because I know, the Celtics love raising banners. I know it would obviously help out with the sort of legacy of Boston. But do I personally think a player who ever plays for Boston ever again cannot wear the number 9? It's a slight yes. I'll say sure. It's not a yes. It's a sure. Great player, multi-time All-Star, title winner, and a very big contributor to that team. Nonetheless, I know he was maybe the 4th peg of that sort of 3-cog sort of team with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, but may have been a bigger contributor than we all know about. So I'm gonna say yes. Okay. Next up on the discussion board, we have Brook Lopez for the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, in this article they discuss retiring the number of Brook Lopez on the Brooklyn Nets. He wore number 11 for Brooklyn during his time there. Obviously, this is, Brooklyn slash New Jersey Nets. Brook Lopez, and if you haven't, heard about that, if you didn't know he even played for that team before, look up his numbers. And he was a very, very, very big contributor to that team. 100%. He was the best player on that team for years and years and years and years. Until I think he left for, it was the Lakers. I think it was his first team away from Brooklyn, if I do remember. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, Brook Lopez, man, again, obviously being a Portland Trailblazer fan, obviously, as you can see, we have a lot of players retired on our team, players who you would never think of being retired, but Brook Lopez for years carried the New Jersey Nets not to any wins. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't, packing it in with W's and great stats. He just had great stats and was the best player on that team. So I don't know if being the best player on a team for many years means you deserve a title. Your jersey retired. Obviously with Rondo, he was a great player on a contributing title contending team for years and years and years. So that one makes more sense on a jersey retirement, but just because you were a really good player on a team, I don't know, I would need more sort of insight on sort of New Jersey / Brooklyn lore on Brook Lopez, how the team, how the franchise, how fans feel about him, because that's definitely what it really also does really come down to, is just how, he helped the team, and I just know him as, the player, Brook Lopez. I'm not sure if he's done really anything. So I'm going to say no. That could be a little stingy, but hey, that's what we can discuss, I guess. He had 1 All-Star appearance and ranks 3rd all-time in rebounds. He leads, for now, all-time in points and blocks in franchise's history. Oh, God. Next up, for a team, they have the Chicago Bulls, and I know you could probably already guess. For the Chicago Bulls, they have a jersey retirement of the player with the number 1, and that is Derrick Rose. Should Derrick Rose's number 1 jersey for the Chicago Bulls be forever retired? And I personally am going to say yes. Obviously, absolutely yes, of course. Derrick Rose was on the path of being maybe one of the greatest point guards of all time. He was 3 years in. I think he was 3 or 4 years years in when he won his first ever MVP, averaging nearly 25 points per game, not even in his prime yet, not even getting a jump shot, not even being able to slow the game down, being able to have that sort of like veteran leadership, being able to have the game become easier for him, not just doing everything based off of athleticism, which he was doing at that time, averaging 25 points per game, making it look easy. I think if Derrick Rose ever got to that level, full potential, no injury, oh my God, Derrick Rose could go down as one of the greatest point guards of all time. He was on a title contending team. He, was just an inspiration for Chicago for a long period of time. A lot of people's favorite player of all time is Derrick Rose, so I think his jersey number means a lot, and I don't think any player would even want to take the number one for Chicago, because everybody knows number one for the Bulls is Derrick Rose. That's crazy. I think that definitely needs to happen. Do I think it will? I think yes. At some point, will it be like, Derrick Rose retires in 2-3 years, and oh my God, Chicago's jumping out of the gate, retiring the number? No, maybe in a couple years after Derrick Rose is retired. I think I see that happening, but I think his jersey should be retired at the very least. I think he's a very good player. He means a lot to the city of Chicago and everything like that. I think that'd be amazing. That's not even one we can really discuss, because I think we can all sort of agree Derrick Rose deserves to be, obviously, a retired number. Oh my God. Okay, well, for the next player we're going to discuss, comes from 3, yes, a jersey retirement of 3 teams. If you're a big fan of the NBA, you can probably guess already who it is already, but this player, I think for 2 of these teams is Noda. That's obviously easy, but for the 3rd team, that's a little bit of a question we have to think about, and it is the teams of Cleveland, Miami, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, it is LeBron James. Now, LeBron for Cleveland, no duh, that jersey number should already be retired. It should already have been done and settled already. That jersey should not be worn by anyone else but LeBron. LeBron is LeBron literally saved probably the city of Cleveland, the state of Ohio. Like, he helped out that entire area's economy for years, having the NBA Finals played there, all the merchandise, the travel, the everything about the city of Cleveland. LeBron helped out a lot. I mean, obviously now their baseball team is doing better and everything like that. Everything's looking a lot better in Cleveland, and the Browns as well, so that's really good. But it all started out with LeBron James, so that's just easy, boom, out the door. We're done with that. Miami. Arguably LeBron's prime, one of the greatest players of all time's prime, was played in this franchise's history. Yes, of course, LeBron needs his number 6 jersey retired for the Miami Heat. I mean, 2 titles in a short period of time. Great runs in the finals and the playoffs. Is all the great memories. One of the greatest sports photos of all time was made in a Miami Heat jersey. I think, again, yes, of course, we can scoot this one out the door. That is a no doubt. But LeBron for the Los Angeles Lakers now. When we think the Los Angeles Lakers, these guys are tenured, long-lasting Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe, I mean, even Shaq played for the Lakers for many years. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, these guys have just been Lakers. They are Lakers. Even Shaq is a Laker, at least in my opinion. Does LeBron already, do you think, deserves to have his jersey retired? Number 23 for the Los Angeles Lakers. Wow. That's pretty crazy to think about, I'm not gonna lie. Already has a title. Already, multiple time. Almost MVP. Finals MVP. was like, hey guys, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me right now. And that sort of wasn't the greatest sort of way to leave. But I still think maybe years down the line when Kyrie is retired, and maybe some years after that, sure, I could see his number being retired. But again, not going to be rushing to the races on raising that banner, but maybe eventually. Next up, they have the Denver Nuggets, and yes, and the New York Knicks for Carmelo Anthony. Should Carmelo's number be retired as a Knick and or a Denver Nugget? For me, this answer is pretty easy. As a Knick, I think no. He was a multiple-time All-Star on the Knicks, but that's about it. He had good numbers, but that's about it. He didn't really, take that team anywhere. That team made the playoffs and had, some moments here and there. Sure, they were a favorite at some points in time, especially very early on in their careers with the Knicks with, Carmelo and Amare, and even when Jason Kidd was on the team, and like J.R. Smith in his prime, and Iman Shumpert was a young player. Like that team, I could see, a little bit more hype there, but Carmelo was a great player on that team, but I don't know if his jersey should be retired as a Knick. But as a Denver Nuggets, absolutely, I think his jersey number 15 should 10,000% be retired. He is arguably, maybe besides Jokic, the most talented player in Nuggets history. I mean, sure, David Thompson was a great scorer, but obviously so was Melo. And, sure, that team never really went anywhere, that early 2000s, mid-2000s team. But, they had Carmelo, Chauncey, Nene, Birdman. They had a squad later on. They had Allen Iverson on the team as well, young J.R. Smith. Like, that team was like a Western Conference, title contender for years. And quite honestly, they probably should have made a final. They probably could have made a finals if, luck was more on their side. And then obviously, not having to go up against Kobe Bryant and, those prime Spurs teams. Like, everyone during that time period was super good in the West as well. But I still think as an individual player, absolutely Carmelo Anthony deserves his number retired. As a Denver Nugget, as a Knick, that's a little bit more iffy. That's more, if you're a Knick fan, let me know. And next up on the list, we have a player from the Golden State Warriors. And actually, I'm going to throw in both names because they're both back-to-back. And it is obviously Klay Thompson. And it is obviously Steph Curry. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson deserve their jerseys retired. Yes, obviously, absolutely. I think Steph and Klay's numbers should each be retired. Steph being the greatest shooter to have ever lived in the NBA, being a multiple-time champion, MVP, yada yada this, yada yada that. One of the most skillful players as well in NBA history. The way he has carried this team, the leadership he has, the love he has shown, the city, the area, the Bay Area, and the franchise of the Golden State Warriors. I think 10,000% yes. Steph Curry, that's an easy one, absolutely. And same thing for Klay Thompson, being arguably the second greatest shooter of all time, one of the greatest two-way players we have ever seen, a player who is ASMballeR, of course, his jersey deserves to be retired. You're stupid. Well, I just want to make this video interesting because I also believe his jersey should be retired. Even though Draymond's sort of prime was very short-lived, I think also, yes, for a very good period amount of time, he was one of the greatest defenders in the league during that time period. An amazing ball handler, could also show some offensive skill as well. The way he talks and coaches and mentors and is so smart with opponents' plays and knowing their own team's plays and this and that. Draymond's IQ is amazing for sure. Does it also help he was on a team with Steph and Clay and eventually Kevin Durant? I think absolutely. I think Draymond Green on his own team would just be a good, smart player. But with those guys help elevating everyone else, I think Draymond 10,000% will also have his name retired as a Golden State Warrior. Another easy one, James Harden. We don't even need to go into that. James Harden is arguably the greatest Houston Rocket of all time. You can argue Hakeem obviously bringing titles and things like that to his repertoire, but I mean, James Harden did a lot for the city of Houston, pretty much revitalizing that franchise from being, just I don't want to say a bad luck team, but they had T-Mac and Yao Ming, and that didn't go anywhere. And now getting James Harden for literally nothing, no offense to the players that got traded for him, but like, you got a superstar generational talent for barely anything, so that was very lucky. So I think James Harden did a really good job in Houston, tried his best, probably could have won a title. It just didn't happen. The NBA is obviously a lot about skill, but it's also a lot about luck and how lucky you are with the team you have, how you're playing, how you feel out this and that. The luck is a very big part of the NBA game. He just didn't get very lucky, so that sucks. But of course, James Harden 10,000% deserves to have his jersey retired as a Houston Rock. Next up, we have Chris Paul and the jersey number of 333, obviously being CP3. Jersey retirement for not only the Los Angeles Clippers, obviously his most successful days as an NBA player, but also as a New Orleans Pelican / Hornets member. Wow, that's interesting. I think a Clipper, I think yes. I think the all-star teams for Chris Paul on that mean a little bit more, because Chris Paul during that time was still, even to this day, being recognized as one of the greatest point guards of all time. And even then, he was in his prime, being recognized as one of the greatest point guards of all time. Even though, again, kind of like with James Harden's Houston Rockets, luck was really just not on that team's side whatsoever, with injuries and bad matchups and just this and that. Like, that team just really didn't catch a break any time in their entire career. So that was really hard to kind of see. But I do think as a Clipper, and, knowing the Clippers franchise history, knowing, haven't really ever had great players like that. Obviously now with Kawhi, Paul George, this and that, they're going to be good from now on. But I think he's arguably the greatest, I mean great as in like entire resume, repertoire, basketball IQ, everything. Maybe the greatest player in that team's history. And I think that means a lot. So I think, of course, in sort of just the legacy of Chris Paul, I think he does. But as a Pelican / Hornet, maybe that's like another like Knicks Melo type of ordeal. It's like, I could see it happening and I'll be okay with it. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. I think, of course, for the Clippers, for what he meant to that franchise, again, revitalizing that team with Blake, DeAndre, that team, I think, yes, for sure, he deserves that. But he was really, 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 really good as a Hornet. franchise as maybe like a Steph and Clay. Like for a long time, they were the only players that team had, and they had really good runs. Just again, luck didn't really turn out for them, and I think for sure when those guys retire, those guys are going to be retired as Memphis Grizzlies players for sure, without a doubt. That's a very easy one. I think that would be really cool to see for sure. Another easy one, Russell Westbrook on the Thunder. No duh, he is, arguably the greatest Thunder player of all time. If we're talking, everything he means to that city, how he did everything he could for that city, just didn't work out again. I think Russ, no doubt about it for sure. We have Kevin Durant for the Thunder and the Warriors. Again, pretty easy. Again, arguably the greatest Thunder player of all time, unless you want to, count in the decision Kevin Durant had by leaving leaving the Thunder and going to the best team of all time, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, and making them the greatest and best team to have ever played basketball ever. With Steph, Clay, Draymond, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, that starting five. Don't even get me started on that. But I think yes, for both teams, no doubt about it. Kevin Durant, arguably one of the greatest players of all time, multiple rings, MVPs, this and that, yada yada yada. No doubt, that's a very easy one. We have Dwight Howard with Orlando. I think yes, for sure. Dwight Howard was the best center in the NBA for a long period of time, was going on track on to being one of the greatest centers of all time. Again, injuries, team fit, how the NBA changed very quickly also hurt Dwight Howard a lot. So, but as an Orlando Magic member, I think no doubt about it, 1000% yes. They have Damian Lillard on here for the Portland Trailblazers. Wow. Yes, no duh. Again, sort of like with Mike Conley and Marc Gasol with their respective teams and a lot of other teams, even though in this sort of vast NBA universe, he doesn't have any MVPs, no titles, no Western Conference titles. He is just, with Portland, the greatest and most meaningful and impactful player Portland has ever had in their franchise's history, going all the way back to probably Bill Walton, who was an MVP on a championship-winning team. So, I think he's the most talented. I think everything when it comes to how he treats Portland and has put Portland sort of back on the map with commercials, endorsements, letting people know about Portland is amazing, and that's what I really mean when I say how much he helps Portland, not only just on the basketball court, but off, is immense. And I think, obviously, no doubt about it, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like some sort of memorial or statue, not memorial, I don't want to say that, but a statue of Damian Lillard after he's retired, because he means that much to the city of Portland, at least as a fan. But what I hear and what I see and what I think, he could go down as like sort of like a Dominique Wilkins type player where, he's great to us, but maybe not the sort of fast NBA public. Maybe it doesn't really matter, but to us, he means a lot. So that's where I sort of see Damian. That's a no-brainer. Next up, we have Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. I think Kyle Lowry, yes, no duh, even though he didn't really stay there his entire career of Toronto. Obviously, he went to Memphis and also Houston. I think everyone knows Kyle Lowry as a Toronto Raptor. He was on great teams during that time. Again, very unlucky to run into one of the greatest players of all time, maybe the GOAT himself, LeBron James. That also probably hurt him a lot. But he did end up winning a title, and I think he does really mean a lot to that city. I think yes for Kyle Lowry. Now for DeMar DeRozan, that's sort of more of an iffy one. That's another one where I'm like, dang, if that doesn't happen, that would suck a lot, but I would also understand why. But it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't happen. That'd be really sucky. But to me personally, I would love to see that happen because I love DeMar. You guys know I'm a big fan of DeMar. How he helps out with, the mental health talk in the NBA, which obviously being an ASMR channel, I very much agree with and that should be talked about a lot more. So I'm gonna say yes, that'd be really cool. But if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And the last player they have listed on here is Kawhi Leonard. And obviously for the Spurs, Kawhi, no doubt about it, should have his jersey retired as a Spur, even though, you know, he may have left a little salty taste in their mouth. Same thing with like Kevin Durant as well. I think still no doubt about it being on, again, one of the greatest teams ever assembled. The Spurs teams with him, Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker, Patty Mills. That team, I think Patty Mills was on the team then. I know Danny Green was. Tiago Splitter, like those teams were absolutely insane. Greg Popovich just at his peak basketball mind. Like that team was just a great team, and he helped out a lot. He helped out on that a lot. Obviously not the talent he is now, but back then was still a really good player. So I think yes, for the Spurs he should be. But as a Raptor, for the one year he was on Toronto, do you think Kawhi deserves his jersey retired as a Raptor? I hate having to say this, but if it did happen, it wouldn't surprise me. If it didn't, it wouldn't surprise me. Because is he not already arguably the greatest and most talented Raptor in their team's history? Like, talent-wise, I think yes. I mean, obviously Vince Carter was really good on the Raptors. Chris Bosh really good. You know, DeMar, Kyle, really good. But, bro, Kawhi Leonard was on a mission that year, and he got them a title. Like, I don't know. You know what? If it wouldn't surprise me, and I think it probably will happen. Not as soon as he retired, but maybe years down the road. I could see that definitely happening without a doubt. That'd be very funny. But this video is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Trying to think about other players that are older in the NBA, maybe closer to retirement. If I know they talked about like Damian and Giannis, like they were super old players. But thinking about older players in today's NBA, other players that you think that might deserve their sort of jersey retirement, definitely let me know down in the comments. I'm not even really entirely sure. I might do this again, but for Hall of Fame players, players who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, not in the Hall of Fame, things like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video.